In this video, I will share some tips and strategies that work for me in my IELTS exam, and I believe that this will work for you too. So first thing first, who is this IELTS for? Now, IELTS has, there are two kinds of IELTS. One is IELTS academic, and IELTS academic is for the students opting to go for higher studies in English speaking country. And there's IELTS general training, which is for someone migrating to an English speaking country. So depending on your situation, you might opt for one or the other. And for me, as I'm opting for higher studies, I just took IELTS academic. Now, IELTS can be taken in two ways. One is IELTS computer based, which is you take IELTS on a computer in a test center. Another is IELTS paper based, which is also you take in a test center, but you take on a paper instead of in a computer, and you just write using your hands in a paper based exam. Whereas in the IELTS computer based exam, you take IELTS using the keyboard. You write using the keyboard that you usually do on while using your computer. So what should you opt for? Should you take the IELTS computer based or IELTS paper based? Well, that depends on you. If you're good with using the keyboard, right? If you are a better keyboard user or better writer while using the keyboard than with your hand, then you should go for IELTS computer based. Otherwise, if you think you are a better writer when you are writing using your hands, your handwritten pieces are better, then you might opt for the IELTS paper based exam. Now, IELTS as an English proficiency test, it has 4 parts. They are listening, reading, speaking, and writing. Now, usually, listening, reading, writing, these 3 parts, they are taken together one by one, and speaking, they can be on the same day or maybe 1 hour before or after your other 3 exams. For me, they were on the same day. So I think it's better if it's taken on the same day. Yeah, you just get over it at the same time. So it doesn't really matter, maybe. So okay, so first about the question pattern. So listening, in listening part, you have 40 questions, and you will get only 30 minutes to answer those 40 questions. You will hear some recordings of audio, and listening will be divided into 4 sections. In section 1, you will hear a conversation between 2 people. Usually 2 people, it could be more than 2, but usually 2 people, and you need to just listen and answer, and also find you need to listen, find the answer, and choose the correct answer and mark it at the same time. In section 2, you will just hear a monologue, and section 3, you will again hear a conversation, and section 4, you will hear again another monologue. So to boil it down, in section 1 and 3 of the listening part, you will hear a conversation, 2 conversation actually, because section 1 and 3. And in section 4 and 2, you will hear just monologues. Well, now each will have, more or less 10 questions in each section total, and in total that will be 40 questions, but you will have to answer them in 30 minutes. Now, okay, let's share the 3 tips and strategy now. So, in my opinion, the best strategy for listening is to read ahead. So when they are just describing the situation, like who's gonna talk about what, when they are just describing you the situation or instructing you, at the time you should just read ahead the question, because it gets tough when they are just you are just listening the question and you have to read all this, all the full question and all the answers. I mean, if it's a multiple choice question, then you have to just read and understand all the four choices, answer choices, and you have to pick one. So it might get challenging, so that's why you need to read ahead. When they are just describing the situation, you should just read all the questions and answer. And you might want to just highlight the keywords there, the defining keywords, I would say, because that way it will be easier when they are saying playing the recording. That way you can just easily just pick the answer when you've already done your homework a while earlier. Another thing is, in listening, you will always, the questions will always in the order that is played in the audio. So there is no issue in that, but the issue could be that sometimes you might hear a synonym of the word that's used in the question, so you might not always hear the existing word, but the answer should be the same as you hear. So be prepared for listening to the synonym, and just as I suggested, just read ahead. And you can read ahead, as I told you, while they are describing the situation. And another thing is, they will, after each section and sometimes in the middle of the section, they will give you a break. Like say for example, section 1 might have might have 10 questions, and after question 1 to 5 you might get 10-second or 40-second break to read the question of question from 6 to 10. So at the time you need to read ahead, and after each section they will just give you maybe 1 minute, I guess, or some seconds to just revise your answer. So you don't revise the answer at the time, you use that time to read ahead the question from the next section. So you can revise your questions, your answers, after you are done with the whole listening part. But in the mid, well, when they are just describing something, they are giving you time to revise, they are giving you time to read ahead. You use all this time just to read ahead the questions, because when you're reading the questions, then after, when you hear the recording, you will have an advantage, because you've already read it, you know what might appear in the audio, and you would be better equipped to pick the correct answer. And another thing is, while reading ahead, you just try to guess the answer. First of all, you need to guess whether what would be in the blank. Would it be a noun or verb, or an adverb or adjective, whatever it is, just guess it. And just don't need to don't necessarily need to pick the correct answer, because you don't know what the correct answer would be. Whatever you need to do is just guess something. It could be anything, just guess it. At least guess correctly what could be in there. Would it be a noun or verb? So you just guess it, so that way you just took some preparation to just face the question later when they just play the recording. So I think that's pretty much it for the reading part. And just practice enough listening part. Some suggest listening to podcast and watching movies or something, but I would suggest you to just practice using Cambridge's books. That would be enough. And Cambridge, practice only from this official Cambridge books, because otherwise other question might be too easy compared to the actual exam, or too hard, as Cambridge just they make the questions for IELTS using their um, books as preparation material would be better, I guess, and that's the recommended ones. Okay, so moving on to the reading part. In reading, you will have three passages, and in three passages you will have in a total of 40 questions, and you will have a total of 60 minutes to answer these 40 questions from these three passages. So as you've guessed, if it were just 30 questions, it could be would have been divided into divided equally 10 10 10 in each passages, but it's 40 questions, it wouldn't obviously divided equally between three passages. But that doesn't matter. What matters is the first reading tip is do not I mean do not spend more than 20 minutes, especially in the first two passages. For first one, try to limit your time. Try to just answer all the questions for passage 1 within 20 minutes. For the second part 2, try to answer all the questions for that appear for passage 2 within another 20 minutes. Then you will be left with 20 minutes. So if you just complete all these questions within 40 minutes for 20 and 20 for part passage 1 and 2, then you will have more than 20 minutes for the third passage. And usually passage 2 will be harder than passage 1, and passage 3 will be harder than passage 2 usually, but that might not be the case. It could be passage 1 is harder, but I'm not sure, but usually it will be that way. 1 is 2 is harder than 1, 3 is harder than 2. So you never know, so it's better to just not cross the 20-minute boundary for the first two passages. So that's one. And another thing is, as I've followed, I don't recommend reading the whole passage first. No, just what you want to do is you just read the title of the passage. That's it, just the title or the heading of the passage, the title of the passage. Then just move directly to the questions with the first question, and now try to read from the beginning, or you might just skim or scan for the information from that question and try to locate it in the passage. You just start from the beginning. So there are a couple of tips here, like when do you need to scan? You can scan when there's just scannable information in the question, like if there's a name, like an author name or a scientist's name, then that name is, that will stand out in the passage, so you can just scan for the name. And if you find the name, just mark everywhere that it appears. And if there's a year, mention of any year in the question, then just try to find the year from the passage by scanning. The scanning is effective when they're just name or year in the question. In other times you might just skim the passage for other keywords. So finding the keyword is also important. Just mark the keyword. In computer based test, I found that you can just mark the keyword in multiple choice questions. true false. So in that case you can just find the keyword in your mind and just read it, try to find it from the passage. And another tip is, other than the matching questions like matching sentences or matching headings, everything else like true false or fill in the blanks, summary, completion, these will follow order. They will come in order, like question 2 will come after question 1, the answer for question 2 will come after the answer for question 1 and before the answer for question 3. So this will maintain the order. But for obviously for matching questions like matching headings or matching summaries or matching sentences, they won't just come in order. They won't come in order. Yeah, said it right. So in that way you have to read it. So for heading matching, I suggest just read from the very beginning. That way you will, very beginning of the passage, some suggest that you should start with the smallest paragraph first, then the second smallest, like that. But I think if you just start from the beginning, then you will just get the whole picture, that how the story is developing, and you will just read as the author intended for you to, because he wrote it that way to develop his story. I mean, that's why I just recommend that way, that for heading matching you should start from the beginning. And yeah, and another thing is, the answer should be from the passage always. The answer should don't need synonyms for the answer. It will be as they appear exactly in the question, I mean in the passage. But for other things like the supplementary keyword or something, they might be the synonyms of what appeared in the passage, so they might change the words in there. But for the answer you don't need to find any synonym. The answer will be exactly as they appeared in the question. So I guess that's it for reading. Yeah, okay, so for writing part you will have two tasks, task 1 and task 2, and for both of them in total you will have 60 minutes. And as task 1 carries or task 2 carries double the amount of value for against task 1, so it's better if you can just spend only 20 minutes on task 1 and spend the rest 40 minutes on task 2. I mean, that's recommended. Try to just limit your time for 20 minutes for task 1 and 40 minutes for task 2. And for task 1 you will be given a chart or graph like bar chart or pie chart or maybe table or maybe line graph, or maybe they will give you a process diagram or any other diagram or layout, a map maybe. So almost in every cases you need to compare them. They will expect you to compare things together, like they might give you some information about something like changes with time. I mean, they might give you a country's some numbers like population in certain time, and after that or will give you the changes in period throughout that period. So you need to compare them. Or it might be in the same year, but for different countries, different things like it may be, I mean, waste disposal rate for a number of countries, and you need to compare them. So it could be anything. In most cases, you will get usually you will get two charts or graphs, because that will be easier for the examiner to see how you can cope with this, to compare them. But sometimes you might get just only one graph or one pie chart or something. For maps or diagrams, you will get, for maps you will have two maps, one before and after. Maybe it's of a town before and after development activity. Or you might get a diagram. It could be a process diagram like glass recycling, or a life cycle of a frog. So it could be anything. So in task 1, what they expect you to, excuse me, is whether you can just read it and just express what you have read, whether and whether you can express correctly what you've read. And there's just some strategy in writing task 1. That strategy is the strategy that I followed is I divided my task 1 answer into 4 paragraphs. Paragraph 1, it contained, it's called the introduction, and there I use just one sentence, and that is just I paraphrase the question. They will give you the question, you need to just paraphrase it. That's it, nothing more. And in second paragraph, I call it the summary paragraph or an overview paragraph. So in overview paragraph, you need to give an overall picture of the diagram or chart or graph, whatever it is that you are given in the exam. So you need to give the overview in 2 sentences. And the third paragraph and the fourth, they will be your main body paragraphs. So that will be main body paragraph 1 and 2. So in total you have these 4 paragraphs. So what are you gonna write in your main body paragraph 1 and 2? Well, you need to just describe the graph or map, whatever it is. So if it's a graph, then you can compare the items. And what sometimes some people might do is they will just write for one country in one paragraph, and another country, another couple of country, another, or for 1 year, another year, like this. That's okay, but what they want you to do is compare between them. If you don't compare between them, just tell this, just in a general mean that you won't get a high score. For a high score, you need to just compare between them. You need to compare how they relate to each other, how they increased or decreased against each other, how it changed against each other. You need to give the scenery and compare between them. That will give you a higher score. And about linking, uses of linking words, linking words, they are important, of course, but excuse me, don't just go overboard with them. Just use what comes naturally, and you need to use some context aware vocabulary in them in your writing. And don't just vomit your all the high frequency vocabulary. I mean, if it seems unnatural to use certain kind of vocabulary in your essay, then it will just create a negative impression. Don't do that. I mean, you use the vocabulary that just goes in there. If it's applicable in there, only use it there. Otherwise, using, I mean, difficult to remember word won't get you full higher marks. just because you can just remember it. So that's task one, I guess. And yeah, you should write at least minimum 150 words. That can be easily attainable. Just try to write maybe 200 or something word, maybe 180 or 150 is okay. Just make sure you don't write less than 150. So here you will have an advantage if you are taking the computer based test, that they will show you the word count. But in paper based test, obviously you can see how many words you have written. So there's the computer based test taker will get an leverage there. So that's task one, and try to complete it within 20 minutes, because task 2 carries, I mean, almost double the amount of value. And for task 2, well, task 2 you will be asked about sometimes about your opinion, like they will give you a statement and ask you whether you agree or disagree with the statement. Sometimes they might ask you to what extent do you agree or disagree with the statement. They might ask you uh, they might give you a statement and ask you what are the problems, what could be causing the problems, and what could be the solutions. They might ask you to discuss both views and give your own opinion. So in every cases, you more or less have to give your own opinion or discuss that. So in task 2 I uh, I try to write or divide my sentences into 4 paragraphs. So in paragraph 1 I write the introduction, and my introduction contains 2 sentences only. The first one is just the rephrase of the, or paraphrase, not rephrase, paraphrase of the question that I'm given, and second line will be my view or my opinion or my answer to the question. Just follow the whatever the question is asking you. If they are asking you, what do you agree or disagree with the question, just say in the second line that I agree with the statement because this or that. You need to answer the question first, I mean, always. And there need not be any summary or something, because in task 2 you should write a conclusion. So as I've said, I try to write 4 paragraphs. In paragraph 1 comes the introduction. In paragraph 2 it's main body paragraph 1. Paragraph 3 is main body paragraph 2, and then comes the conclusion. So 1 2 3 4, 4 paragraphs. So in main body paragraph 1 and 2 you just write and explain your answer. So what you should try is just first give the topic sentence in the main body paragraph, then explain it, then give an example. Always try to give an example, because that will just give you higher chances of getting higher marks. And in conclusion, you should not write anything new, just rephrase whatever you have written in the second line of your introduction. That means whatever you have answered, just rephrase it in your, or paraphrase it in your conclusion. Start with in conclusion, give a comma, and then just write the paraphrased answer that you've given already in your introduction. And yeah, that's it. So okay, so in both task 1 and task 2, just spend some minutes. Usually I recommend spending up to 5 minutes for planning for task 1, as you can just use up to 20 minutes for task 1. You can use up to 5 minutes for planning, and it's not too much, it's necessary, because planning is important for IELTS writing, whether for task 1 or task 2, for both cases. Because without a good plan and without your understanding the questions, you will not be able to write the correct answer or the answer that they wanted to see they wants to see. So yeah, just read the question, understand what they are asking you to do, what they want from you, then answer it. And for task one, you just don't need to, I mean, think too much, or don't need to brainstorm too much, because you have all the information there. Just write it, and you don't need to write everything, because sometimes there will be too much information in task one. You just in the graph or whatever appears in your exam, just select it. They will tell you that select it and write about it. So select the most important aspects and then write about it. And in task 2, you need to brainstorm about, maybe you can up to 10 minutes. So what are you gonna do in 10 minutes? Well, in 10 minutes you need to just brainstorm, especially the main body paragraph 1 and 2. You need to just brainstorm the ideas of the points that you are going to write about. But it gets easier when it's a two-part question, so you can address the first part of the question in first main body paragraph, and in the second body paragraph just address the second part of the question. And if they ask you to discuss both view, so you can just discuss the first view in the first main body paragraph, and in the second main body paragraph you can discuss the second view. So yeah, that's it, I think, for writing. And yeah, you need to write at least 250 words in IELTS writing. Try not to write less than that, but of course try to write, maybe it's better to write around 300. If you cross 300, there would be no issue, but don't try to write less than 250 words. And yeah, there goes the writing. And so after writing, your speaking might be, as I told you, on the same day. Whatever it is, that doesn't matter, but speaking, it has 3 parts. So in part 1, you will be asked around 10 to 11 questions, just simple questions, and they will last for 4 to 5 minutes. Then you will be given a cue card where there will be a question and some bullet points, and they will be just AD to the question, and you need to just prepare your answer for 1 minute. They will give you 1 minute to prepare your answer, and then you'll have to talk about that question or that cue card for 2 minutes straight. And the examiner in the third part, they will be related to part 2. I mean, whatever question or cue card they give you in part 2, they will ask similar or question based on that in part 3 usually. So for each section, for part 1, you will be asked about simple questions about, like, what's your name, maybe where do you live, whether you work or study, where do you work, what do you like working there, and just simple questions. These will be just warm-up questions. And for part 1 speaking test, my suggestion is to just answer the question directly. I mean, don't just beat around the bushes, just directly address the question, answer it, and then in the second sentence just explain it. Like, if they ask you what's your favorite color, you might answer just, my favorite color is white. Then say in the second line, because. Now explain it why. I mean, your answer should not be uncommon or something. It could be common, doesn't matter. What matters is that you can just explain it well. Okay, so good thing that I remember another thing about writing too. In writing tasks, uh, when they when they want you to explain something, or agree or disagree with something, it doesn't matter whether you agree or disagree with the statement. I mean, they are not here to judge you about your character or something. They are here to judge your language, how well you communicate in English. So whatever position you take in writing doesn't matter, or in speaking doesn't. I mean, whatever your position you take does not matter in IELTS. What matters is whether you can back up your position. If you agree with it, just throughout the whole essay in writing part 2, it should just reflect it, your position. Your position should reflect throughout the essay. And if you disagree, the same thing. I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, your idea also doesn't matter much, I would say. What matters is that you can explain it well. You can give example in the support of your idea, and that's what matters. And well, back to the speaking part 1. So in speaking, as I already said, just answer the question directly and then just explain it. And well, if you don't know an answer to something, then there's no harm. You can just say, well, I have not really thought about that, but if I have to guess, or you can just say things like this. That's okay. So they don't expect you to know everything about everything. They just want to see whether you can just face the situation where you don't know something. So that's it. If you don't know anything, just say it. Just admit it that, well, I don't know about it, but I think that. You can just explain it. And another thing is, if you don't catch an answer, like they told you but you didn't hear it or you didn't understand it, you can just ask the examiner to repeat it. That's totally okay. You just ask politely, could you please repeat it or something. That's okay. He or she will just repeat it. So after the examiner is done with the part 1, he or she will hand you a cue card. There will be just a statement or something, a question about you, describing about someone or something, and there will be some bullet points. So, and they will give you a pencil and a small paper to take your note. They will give you 1 minute to prepare a note, prepare your speech, and you will have to speak. After 1 minute, you will have to speak for 2 minutes straight about that topic in the cue card. So one tip is, you don't need to talk about every bullet point there is. I mean, there's no harm if you even don't talk about either one of them. Doesn't matter. I mean, what matters is you can just fully back up your question, fully explain your question, fully explain with examples if it's applicable. I mean, just talk about it from every angle and whatever it is. That's your fluency does matter here. Also, they will check some other things like lexical resource or something, but whatever matters is just keep talking. Talk until they stop you. You don't stop, I mean, on your own. Just keep talking. So after that, they will start the part 3 of the speaking test, and in part 3 they will it will last another 4 to 5 minutes, I guess. And in part 3 your questions should be short, but your answer should be more elaborate than compared to part 1. In part 1 you were expected to answer in short answers, but in part 3 they expect an elaborate answer from you. So for part 3, the strategy is just to simply answer it Then in second line or second sentence, explain it. In the third sentence, example, give an example in support of that. So yeah, that's it. In total, the speaking test will last for 11 to 14 minutes. And yeah, just be confident. Don't be afraid. If you don't know something, say it. I don't know about it, or I haven't thought about it. But if I have to guess, that these and that. Let's talk about it. So these are my tips and strategies, and a few more things. One is I have the what worked for me better for my preparation is there's a YouTube channel that's called IELTS Simon. Now this YouTube channel has some great, playlist for all of the part of IELTS, and these are some great videos. I think this should be enough for uh, getting the whole picture and getting all the strategies. And for practice, you should just follow, try to take tests from the Cambridge official Cambridge books. So for me, I just solved all the questions from Cambridge IELTS 11 to Cambridge IELTS 16. I couldn't finish up to 19. There's already a 19 book, but I couldn't just reach there. But that was okay because uh, well, I did okay, I guess, in the real test. So, and another thing, another YouTube channel would be IELTS Advantage. That's also very good. But I think IELTS Simon would be enough. And that's it. For IELTS preparation, I think time varies. There is no just hard and fast rule about how many days of preparation you need. For me, I took more than 1 month, but less than two, and I only could take preparation for just a few hours each day, and not just all the day of the weeks. I used to come back from the office, take rest, then I would just take the preparation test or take mock test. So it was kind of tough because after a whole day of office, I had to prepare for IELTS. But I guess the hard work paid off. But I also had a long history of using English. Uh, I have been writing in English for both academic and non-academic for a long time now. For non-academic, I used to write blog post, so that helped, I guess, for my writing inherently. For speaking, just I enjoyed, I still enjoy speaking in English because it was kind of challenging at the beginning because it wasn't my native language, and I don't know, how good my speaking is, how fluent am I, or everything, but I guess I'm improving and I enjoy the process. And for reading, I just read all kinds of articles, books. I'm an avid reader, so I read all the time almost. So that helped in my reading, I guess. For listening, yeah, I've watched hundreds of movies, English movies, Hollywood films, TV shows. This help. So yeah, it's not like just I got at eight for just with just 1 month's preparation. I had this long history of using English in my day-to-day life, so that helped. So if you're someone who are completely new in it, then you might need more time to get the same result that I got, because if you don't have this long history of using English, then it might be a bit challenging for you. But if you had this practice in English, I mean, whether in academic context or otherwise, that might help. So yeah, that's it for video, I guess. It was unscripted. I just talked about whatever came to my mind, and if this video just help you just getting your expected score, then I think my this effort would be fruitful. So thank you very much and have a good day. Bye bye.